the Camel Supercross Series is headed toward the home stretch. That means from here on out, the already tough, exciting sport of Supercross is going to get tougher and even more exciting. The race action, already the best in the world, will get better. On the line, hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money and bonuses. The best riders in the world, Jeff Ward, Ron Lechine, Jeff Stanton, and many more all want their share. Stay tuned to ESPN. Supercross is next.
Well, Supercross Series, the best Supercross riders in the world are showcasing their talents in the Lone Star State. We're in Dallas, Texas, at Texas Stadium, the home of America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, for round 10 of the series. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Myers for ESPN. Just 2 weeks ago in Houston, Texas, Team Honda's Jeff Stanton took his third win of the series. It was an impressive win. In fact, the word domination comes to mind. Then 1 week ago in Tampa, Florida, Stanton ran into a combination of mechanical problems and a revitalized former Supercross champion. Gary Bailey, who will be helping me bring you tonight's action, is trackside with that former champ.
Larry, with me, two-time Supercross champion Jeff Ward. He was injured in the first race at Anaheim, California, and missed the first 6 races. Obviously, he's not a title contender, but he's definitely a title spoiler. Jeff, what do you intend to do with the last part of this series?
Well, I intend to win as many races as I can, and hopefully Ronnie's going to need a lot of good luck on his side and win races also if he wants to win the championship.
Although strategy is important, that's not all it's going to take for him to win that championship.
No, he's going to have to beat Stanton, definitely, and I have to be up there also. And it's going to take, like I said, a lot of luck on his side and a lot of trying, a lot of pushing. He's got to win some races, and I'll do the best I can to beat Stanton for him.
Thank you, Gary. Coming up shortly will be the main events in both the 125 and 250 classes. But first, let's look back at heat race action held earlier today. Now, the heat races carry no points, and there are no dollar awards for doing well. What is at stake, however, is a position on the starting gate for the main event, and that's where the points and dollars are earned. In the first of 3 qualifying heats, Larry Brooks from Alhambra, California, took the early lead. Not content with second place, however, was rider number 10, Honda's Guy Cooper. Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma, stalked Brooks and studied the lines Brooks was using. Within 2 laps, Cooper had it all figured out. When Brooks went just a little bit wide, Cooper cut to the inside and the pair of riders swapped position. Throughout the series, both Cooper and Brooks have been among the fastest riders on the track. Of the two, Cooper has been by far the most consistent. The Honda rider, in fact, has a pair of thirds and a pair of fourth-place finishes to his credit. The name of the game right now, though, is qualifying. To make it to the main from a qualifying heat, a rider must finish in the top 5. With Cooper out in front and pulling away, Johnny O'Mara aboard the yellow Suzuki is looking to better his position. And without too much fuss, O'Mara, a former Supercross champ, takes over second. Once there, he immediately began to pull away from Brooks. Now let's take a look at the current leader, Guy Cooper. Cooper either let his mind wander or severely miscalculated where he would land in relation to the lap rider he just hit. Let's watch it again. In slow motion, you'll see the lap rider move across the front of Cooper, who was already in the air. Cooper tried to adjust his landing point, but there simply was not enough room or time. That could have been disastrous, but fortunately there was no harm done, and Cooper even held on to the lead. Meanwhile, Larry Brooks is having trouble holding on to third. Chasing him on the yellow Suzuki is rider number 8, Eric Kehoe from Granada Hills, California. And just like that, Brooks is dropped back to 4th. In the meantime, at the head of the pack, the checkered flag is out for Guy Cooper. O'Mara finished 2nd, while Eric Kehoe right behind was 3rd. Brooks held on to finish 4th, while Keith Bowen claimed the final transfer position. The second heat opened with a battle between Doug Dubach on the white Yamaha and number 4, Kawasaki's Ron Lechine. Dubach from Costa Mesa, California, did everything he could to stay in front of Lechine, but everything was not enough, and Dubach was pushed back to 2nd. Here's Dubach again being challenged by a Kawasaki rider. This time, it's the star of the Kawasaki team, former Supercross champion Jeff Ward. As you already know, Ward missed the first 6 races of the series due to an injury. 3 weeks ago, in his first Supercross race since the injury, Ward scored a strong 2nd place. He followed that with a 3rd in the Houston Astrodome, and last week in Tampa finished 1st. Ward is riding extremely well. Another rider on the comeback trail is rider number 23, Yamaha's Mickey Diamond. This is, in fact, Diamond's first race since suffering a broken hand in round 4 in San Diego. With that pass, Diamond from Placentia, California moved to third while Dubach went back to fourth. They held those positions to the checkered flag. Ron Lachine, meanwhile, took the win with Jeff Ward second. Still to come on ESPN, the 125 and 250 main events and more heat race action. From Texas Stadium in Dallas, join us. You're watching Supercross from Texas Stadium in Dallas, Texas. This is the third and final qualifying heat. It was taped earlier today. The rider you just saw, number 7, was race leader Jeff Stanton. This pair of riders, Dennis Hawthorne on the green Kawasaki and Ron Tischner on the yellow Suzuki, are fighting for second place. The top 5 finishers move on to the main event, but riders try to finish as high as they possibly can. The better a rider does in qualifying, the better his pick for position on the starting line for the main. In other words, Tischner, who just passed Hawthorne, will pick his starting spot before the Kawasaki rider picks his. The first pick on the gate goes to the rider that wins the fastest heat race of the night. And right now, Jeff Stanton appears to be in line for that honor. Stanton has won 3 Supercross events this year and has a healthy lead in the championship point standing. In addition to heat race action, also held earlier today was the 125cc main event. Let's go to Gary Bailey for a report on that exciting action.
Thank you, Larry. The 125 class has been a regular part of our ESPN Supercross coverage. In recent weeks, we've had the opportunity to see most of the riders that make the 125cc class so exciting and fun to watch. Here's one of them preparing for the main event, Damon Bradshaw. Here's Bradshaw again, this time in his heat. Watch Bradshaw's wild ride as he tries to get the best of Suzuki's Jimmy Gaddis, rider number 39. Talk about rough ride, that one would have done a rodeo star proud, but hold on, Bradshaw's not through performing. Here he is again a few laps later, and again he's chasing Jimmy Gaddis. Watch this. Ouch. That had to hurt, but typical racer, the first thought is to get going. Here's the crash again in slow motion. Who was at fault? I think it was one of those things the racer labels, that's racing. But both Bradshaw and Gaddis survived with only their egos damaged, and both riders easily qualified for the 125 main event. And speaking of the main, let's look at that race. When the gate dropped, 20 of the best small-bore riders in the U.S. grabbed a handful of throttle and headed for corner number 1. The first riders there were the same 2 that caused all the heat race excitement. Damon Bradshaw on the white Yamaha and Jimmy Gaddis on the yellow Suzuki. Watch Bradshaw. There was no saving at that time, but here's the remarkable part. Not only was Bradshaw uninjured, but the first concern was getting back on the bike for more. Meanwhile, Jimmy Gaddis was out front trying to put as much distance between himself and the rest of the field as possible. Close behind was number 360, Denny Stevenson, and number 26, Jeff Matasevich. Matasevich won the Western Regional 125 Supercross Championship last year and has a healthy points lead in this year's standings. Watch Matasevich in the upcoming sequence. First, the long jump that put him in position to carry the inside line into the up-and-coming corner. Now watch the block pass he administers on Denny Stevenson. That's right out of the Supercross textbook. Next for the Kawasaki rider was race leader Jimmy Gaddis. The Western Regional points leader had the adrenaline flowing. Jimmy Gaddis, however, had not survived the Bradshaw Wars without learning something. He was not intimidated by Matasevich and had no intention of rolling over without a fight. So once again, the Kawasaki star took matters into his own hands. With that pass, Matasevich took the lead and held it throughout the remainder of the race. Gaddis, though, still had problems. This time they were red as in Honda. First, Larry Ward from Snohomish, Washington, passed Gaddis to take over the number 3 position in the standings. One lap later, Mike Kudrowski, the leader of the Eastern Regional 125cc Supercross Series, was breathing down the Suzuki rider's jersey. Kudrowski from Canyon Country, California, until this year was considered primarily an outdoor rider. By his own admission, his skills indoors were lacking. But please note, I said until this year. In the off-season, the young Honda rider exchanged a few of those impeccable manners for a liberal dose of aggressiveness. The result was the budding of a future Supercross star. But let's not forget Jimmy Gaddis, the young Suzuki rider from Phoenix, Arizona, has the same skills as Matasevich, Kudrowski, Bradshaw, and several other top 125 riders. Sometimes those skill is not enough. When riders are evenly matched, a break or two here or there will decide the race. Watch this jump. Gaddis almost went down, but at the last instant saved it. He did, however, again open the door for Kudrowski, and then he slammed the door. Kedrowski, though, was able to carry his momentum through the corner. This time, the Honda rider would not lose control of the number 3 spot. Meanwhile, up front, Jeff Matasevich had drawn the lead on the checkered flag. When he crossed the finish line jump, it was win number 5 of the 125 series. Finishing in the number 2 position was Larry Ward from Snohomish, Washington, rider number 971.
Thank you, Gary. And rounding out the top 5, in the number 3 position was Mike Kedrowski. Denny Stevenson finished 4th, and Talon Boland snuck in for 5th aboard a Kawasaki. Let's go to Gary Bailey, who was with race winner Jeff Matasevich.
How do you feel about this win now with the East Coast and the West Coast being together, and you come out on top on this one?
You know, it's a really great accomplishment for me. My shoulder's still not 100%. I came here just to ride my own race. I wasn't going to worry about all the other riders, all the big psych about the West versus the East coming here. So I just tried to stay by myself and not listen to anyone.
Jeff, congratulations. Great ride.
Thank you.
And we'll say thank you to Gary Bailey and our congratulations to Jeff Matasevich. Next, the 250 main event.
Because it's the greatest crash footage ever assembled on home video. This 30-minute video features motocross crashes with a twist and a turn. Call it wild.
ESPN. We're in Dallas, Texas, where the Coors Extra Gold Super Challenge is about to get underway. But first, earlier today, we taped a special segment that didn't turn out quite the way we planned. Watch as we go to our track reporter, Gary Bailey.
For the riders on the Supercross Tour, one city is pretty much like another. The riders fly or drive into the race, and immediately after the race, they head back either home or to the next event. But in Dallas, Texas, it's a little bit different. Let me take you to one of the parties held earlier this week. Larry, believe me, the Supercross party was a lot more fun than being kissed by a camel. Come to think of it, though, it was the best offer I had all night. Now, what do you suppose Damon Bradshaw has that I don't, other than those 2 girls, of course? The Dallas Supercross Bash, hosted by Stephen D. Goodman, the couple in the middle, has become a permanent fixture on the Supercross schedule, and why not? It offers a rare opportunity for the riders to mingle without worrying about being passed or stuffed in a corner. And there's something at the party for everyone. For those riders looking for an evening of quiet relaxation, the billiards room is the popular place to be. For those that just can't stay away from the hot and heavy competition, the garage version of the Final Four is where it's at. Here, Team Honda, in the persons of Jeff Stretch Stanton, Guy Sky Cooper, and Larry Bird Ward, took on all comers. They were trashed, though, by Dipper Damon Bradshaw, Todd Tiny DeHoop, and Magic O'Mara. Is it any wonder with moves like that? In addition, there is music loud enough to keep the neighbors awake and enough food to feed the entire state of Texas. And what kind of entertainment captured the attention of the audience? An onion telegram delivered to... Larry, I'll let you explain that one.
Gary, there is no explanation needed. That guy only looked like me. The gate for the 250cc main event here in Texas Stadium. Round 10 of the Camel Supercross Series. We're in Dallas, is set, and we're about ready to go. Now, we've gone through qualifying, 3 heats earlier, 2 semis, and a last chance have put 21 of the fastest and best Supercross riders in the world on the gate for this main. It's the Coors Extra Gold Super Challenge. Now, what you saw just a few seconds ago, they were the mechanics for the riders. They were waving their signal boards, and actually they were using them as fans. It is hot and humid in Dallas. The gate has dropped. Round 10 is underway. That's Jeff Stanton for Team Honda. Stanton out of Sherwood, Michigan is the points leader in this Camel Supercross Series, and he is wasting no time. Right behind Stanton on that green Kawasaki, rider number 5, Jeff Ward, a former Supercross champ, and he's coming off a big win just 1 week ago in Tampa. Now, Jeff Stanton has won 3 Supercross events this year. He did it while Jeff Ward was on the sidelines. In the opening event of the year, Anaheim, California, Ward suffered a foot injury that kept him out of the next 6 events. Ward came roaring back, though, with a vengeance. Since coming back, he's picked up a 3rd, a 2nd, then 1 week ago, an overall win in Tampa. Now, in that race, Jeff Stanton was working his way through the pack when he suffered a mechanical difficulty that put him out of the race. We expected Stanton to challenge Ward, but that never materialized. It has, however, come together here in Dallas. Now, you might think because Jeff Ward has no chance of winning that championship that he would be riding on the conservative side. So we asked the Kawasaki team rider a little earlier if indeed that would be the case.
I don't think so. I want to win races right now. You know, I am out of the championship probably, but I can't get points for, getting up to the top 5, and that's my goal right now. I can get second, I think, if I push it to the end. But I want to win races, and I'm not going to do that by settling in and riding conservative.
The ride that Jeff Ward is turning in here in Dallas could not be mistaken for a conservative one. Now here's the battle for the number 4 position. Johnny O'Mara is in 3rd. He's chasing, of course, Jeff Ward and Jeff Stanton. But this battle for 4th carries a lot of significance in this Camel Supercross series. Ron Lechien is in 5th. He's rider number 4 on that green Kawasaki. In 4th, it's Eric Kehoe aboard the yellow Suzuki. Now, 1 week ago, when Stanton failed to finish, Lechien finished 3rd, and he picked up a pile of points and is now in the championship chase. Let's see what Lechien says about being aggressive or conservative at this point in the season.
It's hard to say. It just depends on the situation, I would say, because, I'd like to say you ride conservative, but, that's not going to win the race for you. So, it just depends. If you're out leading, then sure, you might need to ride conservative. But if you're, if you're back in the pack and, you need to let it all hang out.
And that's exactly the situation Lechien was in just a few moments ago, back in the pack. But he has worked his way forward. He just passed Eric Kehoe and has taken over the number 4 position. Now there's Johnny O'Mara in 3rd, the Osho. And you can see the difference between the 2 riders. It's not much. Lechien is closing the gap. We'll see when we come back if Lechien can catch him. Myers for ESPN. We're in Dallas, Texas at Texas Stadium for round 10 of the Camel Supercross series. What you're watching is a battle for the number 3 position. Johnny O'Mara, the Osho on the yellow Suzuki, has got it, and Ron Lechien on that green Kawasaki, rider number 4, wants it. Now going into this Dallas Supercross event, Johnny O'Mara, the former Supercross champ, is in the number 4 position in the series standings. Ron Lechien is right behind him, just 3 points behind, as a matter of fact. So we could be looking at a ship, and there goes Lechien to the inside, and he cleanly passes the Osho. I can't believe that Johnny O'Mara just moved over. He must have made some kind of a miscue going into that corner, because O'Mara is generally one tough customer to pass. In any event, Ron Lechien has taken over 3rd, and here is the battle for the number 1 spot. The rider currently holding that position is the same rider that has held it since the drop of the gate. Rider number 7 for Team Honda, the series points leader, Jeff Stanton out of Sherwood, Michigan. And here comes Ward. Ward dove underneath Stanton and took over the number 1 spot. Now in that corner, Stanton was using the same line that he had used throughout the race. Ward had been studying him and watching him. All he did was dove in a little bit deeper than Stanton, went lower, and he managed to put his bike in front of Stanton. Let's look at it again in slow motion. This is what you call a block pass. Now watch Ward as he just moves to the front of Stanton. Stanton has nowhere to go and has to hit the brakes. Back to the action, and the battle continues. This time, though, it's Jeff Ward out in front, being chased by Jeff Stanton. Now, several times throughout this race, I've referred to the fact that Stanton has a rather large points lead, and indeed he does. But 1 week ago in Tampa, Florida, he suffered that DNF. He did not finish, and that ate into what at that time was a huge points lead. So Stanton should be thinking a little more on the conservative side during this particular part of the race. He should not be thinking, go for the win. He should be thinking, let's settle for 2nd place. Let's take the points that we can get and go home. I don't think, however, that that is what is on Stanton's mind. Stay with us. We'll be back for the exciting conclusion of round 10 from Texas Stadium. This has been a real barn burner. Jeff Ward, a former Supercross champion, is leading. Right behind him, Jeff Stanton, rider number 7 aboard that red Honda. Since the opening lap, these 2 riders have pounded away at each other. Jeff Stanton took the whole shot and led the first 1/2 of the race. He was passed by Ward, but Ward has not been able to run away from Stanton. Several times throughout this race, we've mentioned Jeff Stanton's points lead. In my opinion, Stanton right now should be riding conservatively, and he should settle for that 2nd place. But he's kept the pressure on Jeff Ward, and there's only one reason that you would do that. That means he's going to try a last-ditch effort, and here we go. The white flag is out. Let's see what happens. Stanton goes to the inside. Jeff Ward jumped right over the top of Jeff Stanton. Ward with a hard drive out of that corner. Caught the lip of that jump. Stanton tried to dive underneath, and Ward went over the top of him. And I was right. Here comes Stanton. He is trying a last-ditch effort on this last lap of round 10 in Texas Stadium. He's moved up now to within a bike length. He's going to try to dive underneath, and he does. He rammed Jeff Ward. Stanton rammed Ward, the 2 of them side by side. Look at that. They bumped in midair. Ward almost fell off the bike. Now Stanton takes a clear-cut lead around that corner, and he almost went down. Jeff Stanton has taken over the #1 position. He's now going to put a lap rider between himself and Stanton. Come out of that tunnel jump. He nailed it off the top of that big jump. His bike shot up in the air, and that's going to give the win to Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward is going to take the win. What an unbelievable sequence of events. I have never seen a lap of Supercross racing that exciting. An unbelievable turn of events at the last instant, giving Jeff Ward the win. There's Ward being congratulated by his mechanic. They have to be happy. The other side of the fence, well, that's Jeff Stanton. He finished second. But Stanton had the race in his grasp. Then at the last minute, throwing it away for no apparent reason. There's Ron Lechien, rider #4 aboard the Kawasaki. Ron Lechien finished in that #3 position. It was a good ride for the El Cajon Kawasaki rider. He'll not gain points on Jeff Stanton. However, he will stay in the hunt. Finishing 4th was Guy Cooper aboard a Honda. Another good ride coming from out of the pack. And Johnny O'Mara finished 5th aboard the Suzuki. In the #6 position, it was Eric Kehoe. George Holland finished 7th. Doug Dubach aboard a Yamaha was 8th. Fred Andrews 9th. And rounding out the top 10, Todd DeHoop. Gary Bailey is with our winner, Jeff Ward.
Jeff, what a great race. Probably one of the best races we've seen all season long. What were you thinking when Stanton got by you?
You know, he made a real aggressive move in that corner. Kind of the same one I made to him. I was expecting it. The last lap, I made one mistake going in the hoops, and I knew he'd be on me. I tried to go inside, but he went in real inside. We tagged, and I held him off, but I jumped too far over the tabletop, landed real hard. He couldn't make the corner, and he got me. And I was putting the pressure on him. I think I just tapped his tire there in that corner, maybe, and he spun out.
Were you surprised whenever he went down coming out of the tunnel?
Well, I saw him get sideways, and I knew I'd have a chance in the next corner to do like I did before. But instead of trying to correct it, he grabbed a handful, and it just came back all the way. So I was happy.
How do you feel about coming back and making it 2 in a row?
Pretty good. I feel really good. Felt strong the whole way, but Jeff, man, he was really tough also. And, you know, my hat's off to him. He had that win just as much as I could have had it. He made one more mistake than I did, but he rode a great race.
Well, congratulations, and no doubt one of the best races we've seen this season.
Thank you, Gary. I'll echo that. And from up here, we'd like to add our congratulations to both Stanton and Ward. It was truly an outstanding effort on the part of both of those riders. Let's take a quick look at the Camel Supercross Series point standings after 10 events. Jeff Stanton safely on top with 198 big wins. With only 5 races remaining on the Camel Supercross Series, next week's doubleheader at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan will be extremely important to all the title contenders. Of course, we'll have all of that action right here on ESPN. For Gary Bailey, I'm Larry Myers saying so long from Texas Stadium in Dallas, Texas.